Hi, good evening and welcome to the program, The Law for People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening. Of course, in this program, we talk about trending socio-political issues here in Nigeria. And of course, we also get to talk about those issues and address those concerns. Well, you can be a part of the show. It's very interactive, so you can be a part of the show. The phone lines will be open in the course of the show. And of course, you can connect with us and also watch us live as well. My name is Rachel David White, and with a fine gentleman. Welcome, Savior.
Hi, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, The Law, the People and Governance.
Well, let's talk about some of the issues that are trending in Nigeria. And of course, some of those issues are going to form the basis of the things we'll look at in the course of today's program. So be with us. Well, let's take a look at one of the first of such issues, talking about, of course, ASU and everything that is happening. Well, brain drain, I'd like to call it, like the federal government says. Yeah, in the education sector, a whole lot has happened. I mean, in the education sector, we're talking about brain drain in hospitals, and we're also seeing it happen in the Nigerian universities. Well, I mean, we're also taking a look at the fact that the court has summoned INEC to make sure it brings out to the public those officials that registered underage voters. I mean, talking about one of such issues, I would say it's a good thing. Well, starting from the education sector, the Academic Staff Union of Universities today raised the alarm that most department and units in Nigeria's universities, public universities, were short-staffed due to the resignation of lecturers in search of greener pastures. You know one thing, Savior, there's this thing that I don't know if it's the government or some other people that feel that once you have a federal government job or you're not going anywhere, you'd love to be a pension earner and all of that. So, I mean, they definitely know that no matter how you're shaken, you're moved, you're not going to go anywhere. But, I mean, when I first saw the story, I was quite surprised. So well, the lecturers could also move.
Absolutely. Lecturers could move. And that's what's going to be the trend in Nigeria today. Things remain the same.
Well, the chairman of the University of Ibadan chapter of ASU, Professor Ayo Akinwole, disclosed this in Ibadan, Oyo State. He said Nigeria's public universities were in very pitiable conditions with stress and frustration visible in the faces of poorly remunerated lecturers. According to him, he said, except President Bola Tinubu arrests the situation by reviewing the conditions of service in terms of salaries, allowances, infrastructure, many good hands will continue to resign and leave the country. Now, unfortunately, the same government that is not funding education has a National Assembly proposing to establish 32 more universities.
Yeah, you can imagine that, Rachel. I mean, how do you establish more universities when you have
we
not
have not
catered
even
for
funded the ones
that we have on ground?
What's happening, I mean? Well, the chairman also said poor and delayed salaries, unpaid allowances, poor infrastructure, lack of respect for the academic community, and the seeming dwindling hope are some of the factors responsible for the resignation of lecturers in the past few months. He also suggested that establishing more universities will not solve the problem, but rather improve the capacity of existing universities to be able to admit more students. Of course, according to him, he says the union has received report on how colleagues resign on a monthly basis because of the very way lecturers are treated and poorly remunerated in Nigerian universities around the world are poaching more quality hands. And if not halted by the government through intentional reviewing of upward conditions of service, it will be difficult to retain the best hands. And it also says vice chancellors cannot single-handedly employ to replace staff as urgent as it is needed again. It says they have to contact Abuja for approval, which may take 6 months or a year, if not more, before they get that approval. And by this time, the best candidate has gone to a more serious country to respect quality. Sadly, people from higher up there, from the Ministry of Education, the legislatures themselves, want to dictate who the university should employ.
Rachel, I can't help but consider how these brain drain affects the trickles down to affect the students, because if lecturers are leaving, if we don't have capable hands to take care of different departments in the universities, it definitely means that the students will be the one bearing the brunt.
You know, something I just remembered something I saw somewhere. It's a skit though, but it made a whole lot of sense. I mean, students, that one goes to both the parents and the teachers, the lecturers. Now, a student went through, you know, to study what, according to the student, wanted to study music, and the parents said, no, you have to be a doctor. And the lecturer, because of money, fine, we're talking about withheld salaries and, of course, unpaid allowances and all of that. So because of money, the lecturer just gave the student a pass. Of course, you can go, you have an A. And the student graduated from that university and became a medical doctor.
Without the requisite
and then the lecturer ended up there. And then when he's on seeing the student is like, no, I can't let you attend to me. He said, no, but I had an A, you gave it to me. So now we're talking about how it's going to affect the students. Now you're going to end up having students who are now graduates
and mediocre in their fields. Absolutely.
Now, have you seen someone who is done with NYSC but cannot spell more than his or her name in Nigeria? I mean, lots of them.
Replete examples.
So you get to ask yourself, what happens to basic education? How did they pass through? How did they get to this point? I mean, who a whole lot of questions. Now, the question here is, what do you have to say about the fact that 32 more universities are already approved by the federal government to be established when we are having brain drain, poor funding? Which lecturers are actually going to go? I mean, you know already this is a job that is not paying, so would you encourage another person to go into the field?
I think another salient question to ask is, which lecturer would want to stay back in Nigeria, in one of our universities, when they know that they can actually do better elsewhere? This takes us to our next report, where we have it that the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has confiscated unregistered and counterfeit drugs worth 30 million naira in the Wuse 2 area of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. The NAFDAC team, led by the Deputy Director of Investigation and Enforcement, Kaduna Tamanuwa Andrew, raided 2 drug stores and hawkers at Day Market on Monday. Now, Andrew said some of the drugs seized at the store in Wuse 2 were addictive and were not to be sold over the counter, while others were not meant for the Nigerian market. He said the agency would commence an investigation immediately into the matter and seal the drug store. Now, the team proceeded to another branch of the drugstore located in local Goma, where the staff were seen emptying some of the shelves. They alleged that they were cleaning them. However, the enforcement team still seized some drugs from the store. The NAFDAC's enforcement team then proceeded to Day, where they also raided those that hawked drugs at Day Market. Andrew said the agency got information about the activities of drug hawkers from the sister agency, the DSS, and advised Nigerians to stop patronizing them.
Yeah.
Now, 2 persons were arrested in the Wuse 2 raid, while 3 hawkers were arrested in Day. The leader of the NAFDAC enforcement team said all those arrested would be taken to the Investigation and Enforcement Headquarters in Kaduna for prosecution to serve as deterrent to others. This is another menace, Rachel.
Now, you know, before now, I think there was some time, I think last month or September thereabout, when NAFDAC came out to warn persons who are hawking drugs in the market and buyers, you know, to stop patronizing them. And now, one of such dangers is that you get to buy what is not
substandard.
Yeah. Something happened. I think a friend of mine suffered ulcer, and then I recommended a drug that is popularly known for ulcer. And then so she went to get the drug, and she was opted another thing. According to them, that was another product, and it was cool for ulcer. So she got it, and then the condition got worse. So I asked to see, you know, what she had got. Yes. And then I tried to, you know, pour it out, and you won't believe what I like. I can't explain. It's enough to cause another harm in someone's body. And then you could see the pack that it was poorly made, and it looked like something that was printed somewhere around home, you know, and was packaged. Now, this also made me wonder what is really happening. I mean, we're talking about health challenges. Daily, we are having new uncovered disease, uncovered health challenges. And it now leads me to hawking in the market when you see people hawking locally refined kerosene in the markets. And then these things have killed so many people, have, you know, burnt different houses. So it now makes me also wonder, what is the government doing about that? Because these things are not hidden. If you go to almost all the markets here in Akwa Ibom State, I believe other states have theirs too, you'll see these people publicly hawking kerosene in a wheelbarrow, you know, putting them in rubbers and selling them at cheap prices. And because the government cannot make this product cheap for their citizens to buy, so other people who refine it in a way they can, make it cheaper, but very dangerous.
Dangerous and harmful to consumers. Now, that brings me to the issue of the proliferation of all manners of people that are not qualified within the medical institution to be discharging services and selling drugs that they are not even aware of. They end up, because they've been able to garner some level of trust within the communities that they operate. All this,
you know the funny thing, they are all called doctors.
Absolutely.
You know, recently you also had, I think, the Association of Midwives come out to say, listen, we don't know anything called auxiliary nurse. It's not registered in the Midwifery Association or something. So what is auxiliary nurse when you can't even study? Say before you can even become a qualified, you have to have studied for 3 years or more. And then you see people called auxiliary nurses. So they are coming out to publicly say, we do not recognize auxiliary nurses. Who's an auxiliary nurse? And then these are people who just go to chemist and then they train for a year, 6 months, or 3 months, and then they have the set to go open their own stores locally in villages, and then they sell over-the-counter drugs, and then people get to patronize, and you hear them say, "Oh, doctor, can you?" You know, and
eventually, when some of these drugs are not available for them to disburse to the end consumers, that is where the issue of how do we replicate these drugs come in.
Yeah.
And you see them bring in all sorts of concocted substances that are replicas of the original.
Of course. Well, let's move to Imo State right now, where the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Charles Ogu, has been suspended over alleged gross misconduct and insubordination. Well, the suspension took place, it took effect. It took effect immediately, and it was announced in a statement by Jabba, the party's state secretary, and the motion for Ogu's suspension was moved by Emeka Aliye, the PDP chairman of Ohaji Egbe-Maluku government area, and seconded by God's Power Apollo's chairman of the party in Owerri Municipal. Well, the motion was also adopted by chairmen of at least 18 other local government areas and members of the State Executive Committee SEC as far back as October 24. Well, Aliye moved the motion in October, also accused the suspended party chairman of failing to summon a meeting of the State Working Committee contrary to the provisions of Section 21, subsection 3 of the party's constitution. Now, when I see things like this, I just, give a nod and say, if we can have everyone on their feet like this, it means things are going to work out for better. If someone is not doing well, why keep the person?
Reprimand the person in terms of making sure that they discharge the sworn duties that they took up upon themselves. Now, in our next report, the Supreme Court has dismissed a plea by Emeka Ihedioha of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Imo State, seeking a certificate of return as the state's lawful governor. Ihedioha had told the Apex Court that Governor Hope Uzodinma was not qualified to run for the election in the first place, claiming that Uche Nwosu was earlier declared by the court as the rightful candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC. Now, in a verdict read by Justice Tijani Abubakar today, the Supreme Court dismissed the motion for lack of merit, calling it needless and vexatious. It awarded the cost of 40 million naira against Michael Zekome for bringing the matter before the court.
Okay. I mean, if I want to talk about that, I would say that I think the court says made it too open for anyone to just come in and lay a petition, you know, file a suit against anybody.
Lenient. So you see all manner of litigations going to the court.
So I think when there is a fine of you know, over 40 million, and
how are we even sure that these monies are paid at the end of the day?
I don't know, because I haven't really followed up or heard a case where it was finally paid.
It was finally paid.
Well, away from that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken swift action in response to the accidental bombing of Tudumbiri in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State by the Nigerian army on Sunday, resulting in the loss of numerous lives. Well, in a statement issued on Tuesday by the presidential spokesperson, Ajuri Galale, earlier today, President Tinubu expressed condolences to the affected families of the Kaduna State government. Well, the president's quote President Tinubu as saying that the incident is very unfortunate, disturbing and quite painful, expressing anger that the grief over the tragic loss of Nigerian lives. And the president had directed an immediate and comprehensive investigation into the incident and has called for calm as authorities diligently look into the mishap. While the president also mentions, the statement mentions President Tinubu's directive for swift and thorough medical attention to be provided to the surviving victims, and he also offered prayers for the repose of the souls of those who lost their lives in the unfortunate incident. Now, confirming the Army's acknowledgement of responsibility for the airstrike, Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs Samuel Aruwan emphasized the gravity of the situation. While the incident has prompted urgent actions from the president to ensure a thorough investigation and appropriate measures are taken. I mean, it's quite sad.
Well, you see that we're battling all sorts of security issues in the country, Rachel, and when we see stories like this, it raises a lot of cause for concern. And the people bearing the brunt.
What a costly mistake, I must say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm really looking at a situation where issues of this nature would be curbed and nipped in the bud and to see how we can address them. Now, a former National Vice Chairman Northwest of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Salihu Lukman, has slammed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for making excuses about the current hardship in the country. According to reports, Lukman, in a statement issued in Abuja, also faulted those blaming former President Muhammadu Buhari for the current hardship Nigerians are going through. I recall that a few weeks ago, the Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun and National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu said
inherited
President Tinubu
bankrupt
inherited a bankrupt country and an almost comatose administration, respectively. However, the former Director General of APC Progressive Governors Forum, PGF, further maintained that instead of blaming Buhari, APC leaders, including Tinubu, should take responsibility for the ex-president's failure and take the needed initiative to improve Nigerians' lives. The APC chief then urged Tinubu to admit that the current hardship is primarily due to fuel subsidy removal and floating the naira against other major currencies without proper planning. Now, Lukman warned that the APC government cannot renew the hope of Nigerians by giving excuses. Before I even get to this story, Rachel, this is a former APC chieftain talking. And why is it that...
it's not the opposition party.
Why do we see issues of people who are not really active in the party coming into the bond? Because apparently, if this man was actively in politics within the APC currently, maybe there are no rifts anywhere. I don't see the possibility of this condemnation
maybe
coming
he
out.
would have even been, you know, appointed as one of these organs. Now, aside from that, you know, Lukman has always been one person
who is outspoken.
Who speaks a lot.
Whether he is in,
of course,
he's being favored
way
or not.
back the past administration, Lukman always talked. Now, talking about giving excuses, I mean, you'd like to remember that the president, I think, twice or thrice has called says he inherited bad economy, bankruptcy, and all of that from the past administration. Now, that is not an excuse, like Lukman said. Now, of course, giving people renewed hope talks about, now this has happened, I am here to renew. What's
Yeah,
renewed
I'm going to
hope?
fix things.
So, not coming to give Nigerians excuses.
But these people never campaigned on the basis of excuses. They campaigned that they were going to come in and fix things and make life better for Nigerians. So why giving us excuses now, or reminding us that, oh, it was because of the former administration? That is
now,
why.
Let's even talk about the personality of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whom I would say was an anointed candidate of the former president. Yes, he was.
Even though there were a couple of rifts here and there.
Yeah, but to show that he was the one who says, oh, I support this man, and then this is who I'm voting for. You get?
President
Now,
eventually
that
came out.
simply means that in one way or the other, this person must have been in a position to tell you, oh, you're going the wrong way.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
Do it this way.
So it must have been close to your heart, enough to give you an advice to say, oh, don't go this way. It's not going to be good for Nigeria. So why didn't he do that? Was he waiting for him to fail so he would come correct it?
In all honesty, Rachel, I don't think those two were really that close.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it had to do more about politics. What needed to be done? Why this man needed to be the next in line?
Well, at the same time, I'd like to say that, as usual, let's give this administration a chance and hope that maybe things are just going bad to get better. What do you think?
Rachel, we've been holding on to that line for a long time.
It's going to be a new year next month. So I'd like to say that new year, new things, new. Let's just see what the government has undercover for us. Well, moving away from that right now, I mean, documents have emerged exposing how Erling Ondo Governor Akeredolu's aides family members allegedly forged his signature. Yesterday we talked about this. Now, one of those documents, which is from the Ondo State House of Assembly, was signed by Oleyalogun, Bamidele David, and Jayola BT Cleric of the State House of Assembly. Now, some family members and aides of Erling Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu have been forging, according to report, his signatures on official memos, according to some state government documents obtained by, of course, media reporters across board. Now, one of those documents, which is from the Ondo State House of Assembly, was signed already, I mentioned, by Bamidele David and Jayola Cleric of the State House of Assembly. And the document had a column for the governor's assent and the governor's seal. And this was where the signature of Akeredolu appeared, dated 25th of May. According to report, it was reported earlier that Kayode Ajulo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, stated that some commissioners, which we mentioned yesterday on Ondo State government, had been signing official documents in the name of Erling Governor Akeredolu. Now, Ajulo, who is the principal partner of Kayode Ajulo and co-castle of law, had revealed these on Monday while featuring on a televised interview just yesterday. And the senior lawyer had said that the Ondo State Deputy Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa could not take over from Governor Akeredolu since power had not been transferred to him constitutionally, now making way for the hijack of the state governors by the cabals. And some notable indigents of the state representing several local government areas of the state wrote to the state chief judge, Justice Ayedun Olusegun Odushola, to exercise his powers as the leader of the third arm of the government to compel the Ondo State Executive Council to act in line with Section 189 of the Constitution to determine Akeredolu's capacity to continue to govern the state. While the indigents, including human rights activists and even presidential candidates of the African Action Congress, AAC, in the last general elections, Omoyole Sowore, had also demanded that the CJ should request that the Speaker of the State House of Assembly constitute a medical panel to ascertain Akeredolu's capacity to actually govern that state.
And in a swift reaction, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State refuted claims that some commissioners and state officials are forging his signature. I recall that senior advocate of Nigeria, Kayode Ajulo, had alleged that some government officials were forging Akeredolu's signature on official documents. Ajulo said the vacuum created by Akeredolu due to illness gave cabals the opportunity to forge his signature to legitimize their actions. Dismissing Ajulo's remark, Akeredolu, through his chief press secretary Richard Olatunde, described the allegation as utterly preposterous and ludicrous, while challenging him to present concrete evidence.
Interesting.
Now, a statement by Olatunde accused Ajulo of relying on fabricated signatures circulating the social media. He challenged Ajulo to provide the alleged forged documents or disclose the beneficiary. But why would someone come out to hold brief for the governor? If the governor says, nobody's forging my signature, why would you take it upon yourself to speak for the governor?
Well, the chief press secretary has a right to do that. But away from that,
I mean the SAN. The SAN.
Oh yeah. Now, the problem in Ondo State is, I think that the government is for the people, and the people put the government in there, the governor in there rather. Now, the people of Ondo State have said, let the CJ, the Chief Justice of the state, of course, let him make sure that he invokes the Constitution. What happens when the governor is ill?
He's ill, and
what happens when he doesn't have the capacity to roll for a longer period of time? Constitute panel of health practitioners, of doctors and nurses to examine the health of the governor.
And come up with a verdict.
Another thing is setting up a panel that is still in the governor's cabal.
Well,
you know
still,
what will happen.
of course, the result will
So how do you go about this, constituting a panel that is independent, and they examine the governor and they say, look, this man is not fit. Now go onto your feet. The thing is simple, but I think it still has to do with interest, personal interest, rather than public interest.
It's difficult to imagine that this issue is still on the front burner when the president
had stepped in
to settle these grey areas.
Well, Justice Obiora Egwatu, talking about what is happening in the court of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, has actually ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to identify within 90 days its officials involved in the registration of underage persons during the continuous voters registration (CVR) exercise in polling units across the country. Well, Justice Egwatu also directed INEC to produce and hand over the officials to the appropriate law enforcement agency for investigation and possible prosecution. More so, the court made a mandatory order compelling INEC to expunge forthwith from its national voters registration the names of all the underage voters from each of the polling units across the federation, published on its website as identified and compiled by the plaintiff in Exhibit A attached to the affidavit in support of the originating summons. The judge also made a mandatory order compelling the commission to finish or furnish the plaintiff with a certified true copy (CTC) of a cleaned-up national voters register of all the persons eligible to vote in Nigeria within 90 days. And alternatively, he also ordered INEC to publish the cleaned-up national voters register of all the persons eligible to vote in the country in its website within 90 days from the date of the judgment. And the court gave a judgment in a suit by Reverend Mike Agbon against INEC, filed on March 17, 2023. Now, it was filed by Desmond Yama on behalf of the plaintiff. Now, in the judgment delivered on November 28, the court held that the conditions for qualification to be registered as a voter were stipulated in the Section 77, subsection 2 and 117, subsection 2 of the Constitution and Section 12 of the Electoral Act. And according to the court, the common features of these sections are that the voter must be a citizen of and residing in Nigeria and has attained the age of 18 years. Now, citing provisions of Section 120, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022, he said any officer who acted in breach of his or her official duty committed an offense and would be liable on conviction with a maximum fine of 500,000 naira or imprisonment for a term of 12 months or both. In a suit, the plaintiff posited 6 questions for a determination, including whether the defendant is constitutionally, legally, or duty-bound to conduct credible CVR in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or whether the defendant is bound by the Constitution and its enabling statute, the Electoral Act, to act in strict compliance with the provisions of the Constitution. Now, let's just pause there and talk about this issue. Savior, I mean, this is not a new thing in Nigeria. Over time, especially in the northern part of the country, there have been calls, there have been allegations, there have been reports that we always have underage voters. Now, you see them, their pictures on the INEC portal or on their PVCs, and then you see that this child is definitely a child.
Not 18,
come on.
absolutely.
And then there is no way this child could have been 18 years, especially in the northern part of the country.
That's the one part. Now, look at the situation where we hear that people from neighboring countries are being registered to participate in Nigeria's election. And it doesn't seem as if there is an end to this scourge. Like you rightly put it, indeed, it has been an issue that has trended over time.
So, I mean, why can't we just have this one right? If we can't have a free, fair, and credible elections without thuggery, hijacking of ballot papers and boxes, filling ballot papers, automatically filling because people don't fill it, just fills itself, you know, and all of that. If we can't get those ones, why can't we get this one right? I mean, there's so many issues we need to look at.
Well, Rachel, I really think that the baby steps that we talked about every time would come to apply here, would come to play here. We look at a situation where the issues that are bedeviling our electoral system would be addressed with time. Hopefully.
All right, let's just hope so too. We'll go on a short break. When we come right back, the show continues, so do stay tuned. We are coming right back.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There's nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Welcome back. It's still a program, The Law of the People and Governance. And before we wrap it up, we'll have other reports to share with you. And that's that the Chief of Army Staff, COAS Lieutenant General Tariq Nagbaja, has described the deadly airstrike that killed 85 people and injured several others in Kaduna State as regrettable. While Nagbaja visited the victims 2 days after the accidental strike in the Igabi area of the Northwest State, and promised to guard against such an occurrence in the conduct of military operations. While the Army Chief, who also visited the site of a mishap that has thrown the nation into a sorrowful mood, apologized on behalf of the Nigerian Army to the community, the government and the people of Kaduna State. And he was actually accompanied by principal staff officers from the Army headquarters and the General Officer commanding 1 Division, and also met with the Danga Ladima Zazo, the district head of Rigasa, architect Aminu Idris, all the leaders and members of that community as well. Well, already President Bola Tinubu had already condoled with the victims of the incident. Quite a sad one.
Really sad, Rachel. And this all boils down to the inimical security situation in the country that constantly leaves us worrying about what the next minute holds.
You know, at this point, people don't even know what to believe. Was this a mistake, such a costly one? Was the person not trained? Wow. And then...
or is it that there was actually someone that was being targeted, and then they could decide to regard these ones as collateral damage?
An insurgent member, you know, member of one of this insurgency group, or someone who was an insider and decided to carry out the mishap or something? So many questions, you know. Sometimes most Nigerians ask, is this a strategy to lessen the population of the people? So many questions.
That's an angle to be considered, but then, Rachel, it is still a security concern, and the military really needs to do better to ensure that the lives of Nigerians are safeguarded, especially in the northeast, where we have recurrent issues of insurgency and Boko Haram attacks here and there. Now, in our next report, we have it that the President, National Association of Nigerian Students, Lucky Emonefe, has vowed that his administration would fight against the increase in school fees across tertiary institutions nationwide. He noted that NANS was poised to defend the interests of Nigerian students across the board. And he also called for reconciliation among members of the association, especially aggrieved candidates who lost out during the recently concluded election in Abuja, adding that a united NANS would benefit Nigerian students. He made this known at a stakeholders press conference in Abuja, when some students leaders, including the newly elected NANS Senate President Hafiz Akinteye, met to declare support for the administration. Now, earlier during the press conference, some runner-ups, Dom John, Stephen A. Young, Boniface M. Meshowan, and Namfon Umoisian, and the NANS Senate President-elect Hafiz Akinteye, the clerk-elect Oladimeji Othman, amongst others, declared their support for Emonefe. And then this all boils down to the inimical issues happening within the university system. I think another area the NANS president should consider is the issue of making sure that they actually have lecturers to teach the students. Rachel, don't you think so?
Well, I think at this point, I'd like to say that we really need to talk about this issue. So maybe in the course of a week, we'll have the students also talk for themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, the last report we'll be looking at today is that the House of Representatives Committee on Public Asset and just today vowed to recover asset belonging to the nation acquired through fraudulent processes. While the committee's chairman, Demar Nkuye, said in Abuja at a one-day retreat organized by the panel on the theme Guardian of Public Trust, Transforming Public Asset Oversight and Legislation. Well, I must say that's a good fight.
Absolutely.
Claiming. But let me bring it to the local level. I've actually attended a stakeholders meeting of a particular community, a particular local government here in Akwa Ibom State, where, of course, those stakeholders vowed to reclaim the local government's assets that were, you know, acquired through fraudulent manners. Well, yeah, to a point where, you know, some of their, you know, stakeholders, some of their House of Reps members, some of them that were in government before, acquired cars, lands, you know, money that was meant to build lock-up shops
for,
you know,
citizens.
Yeah, one of them took it and built a house, erected a story building for
himself,
yeah, himself and all of that. So, I mean, if this happens, trust me, I think more or less these days we're seeing people, you know, up on their toes trying to see what is happening with the people's money. What is whoever in that office doing? Is the person serving the public as planned and all of that? Well, this is where we're headed for today.
Absolutely. Now, Rachel, the issue is not even about the recovery of the funds. Sometimes these funds are recovered and
like
it is not accounted for.
Fund?
They are not accounted for. If these assets are recovered, we don't know. As soon as we hear that they've been recovered,
a bachelor's loot has been recovered.
That's the end of it.
All right, thank you so much. This is where we called a close for today. Thank you, Xavier Robert, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you, viewers, for being a part of this one.
All right, don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv, live.ng. And I'll catch you again tomorrow. My name is Rachel David White.
I'm Xavier Robert. Bye-bye.